we've been doing great work since the last 5 months, recruiting, rebuilding the associations across Quebec. We're in a much better shape than we were 5 months ago. And this is, yes, a challenge. This is a challenge for us, but we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna win the next election. Remember when I say in a year from now.
Good luck moving forward to Pablo Rodriguez. What has it been now? It's 19 days. We're on day 19 of Quebec Liberal Party Watch. Of course, it all began with Marois Risky letting go of her chief of staff, Geneviève Hance, doing it without the approval of Pablo Rodriguez. And then lo and behold, we see the tabloids with text messages showing up in headlines. Another story later about brownies and perhaps paying for votes. Now, we actually don't know how much of any of that is true, what's not. Our next guest says, doesn't matter anymore if it's true or not. Fair or not that Pablo Rodriguez must go. Let's go to Robert Libman. He's a former MNA and former leader of the Equality Party and, of course, a Gazette political columnist. Robert, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Elias. Congratulations again on quite the milestone yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. And you've been with us, Robert, over the years, right? So you're a part of that, right? So we appreciate you at the same time. Thanks.
And
thanks.
Shout out to my mom, Goldie, who was actually interviewed by Andrew Carter yesterday.
Oh, I love
because
it.
every time CJD does an anniversary retrospective, they play this bit that she did with George Balkan and Ted Blackman about 40 years ago, when she complained to Aislinn that one of her pet peeves was Ted Blackman's voice in the morning before she's had her coffee. So they called her on air with Ted Blackman emulating a bedroom voice, and it was quite a funny bit. I've heard it many times played over the years, every time CJD has an anniversary. So shout out to her, as you like to give shout outs.
Absolutely. Shout out to Goldie. And I just love, there's so much stuff about CJD that goes full circle, and it's a part of what makes it so special. Okay, Robert, time is short, as they say in the radio business. So I want to read one line from your piece. It's the sub-headline as you start off. You write this: I believe him, Pablo Rodriguez, I believe him when he says he wasn't aware of improprieties, but suspicion and doubt have splattered the Liberal Party and its leader. Fair or not? Does he have to go?
I think the Liberals don't have a choice but for him to step down. He himself, when he expelled Marois Risky from his caucus, he said that no one is above the party and they've got to act in the best interest of the party. And I think at this point, no matter what he does, no matter what gains he might make, no matter what political issues he raises, this is sticking with him, and it will stick with him throughout the campaign, and his opponents will have a field day in just churling this issue over and over and over again. And it's unfortunate because I think he is fairly innocent. He was caught off guard. He was blindsided by this, but I don't think he has a chance under these circumstances, and the stakes are very high in the next election. As you know, the PQ seems to be headed for victory in the election next October. They're promising another referendum, which will bring about instability and uncertainty, and another referendum. So we need someone that could perhaps provide an alternative for Quebecers, and now there's too much baggage, too much blood on his hands, justifiably or not.
Your piece in the Gazette was the jumping off point for one of the discussions we had this morning on the Big Five. And one of our panelists, I think it was Justine McIntyre, but one of our panelists said, or maybe it was Victor Enriquez. They said, listen, the Liberal Party has their own internal investigation, third-party, independent investigation, and it's going to deliver a report end of January. That's not too far away. The holidays are coming up. And they said, you know what? He has enough runway to get to the release of that report. I thought that was a fair argument. What do you say to that?
He might. He may very well be completely cleansed from his internal party investigation. There will always be doubts nonetheless. His opponents will always raise the specter. Of course, we know that the Liberals have a reputation that the other parties exploit, whether at the federal level, the sponsorship scandal, the provincial level, the whole Charbonneau Commission, through their history. So his opponents will certainly keep bringing that up. And even if it's shown, he already had a bit of an uphill battle, Pablo Rodriguez did, in the next election, trying to win the regions, the Francophone regions, and this just makes his challenge all the more difficult. I think this will always come back to haunt him throughout the campaign, and yes, perhaps, maybe, he will be cleansed throughout this process, but will it be enough to be able to get those stains off him and the Liberal Party and the damage they've been hit with over the last several weeks, to be able to mount a comeback to overcome a major deficit with the Parti Québécois in a situation that's crucial for Federalists, for all Quebecers in the next campaign.
So, Robert, as I mentioned, we don't have full answers. We don't know what happened. But I want to ask you, on the scenario where Pablo Rodriguez is completely vindicated in that he didn't know anything that happened, he wasn't aware, he wasn't a part of it. But there were brownies. There was shenanigans happened. Would that be, even if he's clean, if his election, there's questions about how he got elected, is that another game over scenario?
Well, it could be. And I even mentioned in my column that the reality is that in every leadership contest, in every nomination race, in every election, you have some overzealous volunteers or fundraisers far removed from the leader or the candidate who end up bending the rules knowingly or unknowingly. But right now, and I talk about it also, the media is smelling blood here, and they're going to keep digging, and everything they find that might seem untoward will be published primarily in the Journal de Montréal probably over the next few months. And we also don't know what the situation is with Marwa Risky and why the Chief of Staff was fired. Is there anything untoward that took place there? Are there any improprieties there? Unfortunately, her silence has just amplified the speculation of suspicion around what happened. So we don't know what happened there either. And it's just an extra roadblock that the Liberals have now in order to make a comeback in this election. It's going to be difficult enough as it is, so why all these perhaps maybes that might still remain and linger over the next few months? We could take the chance, and certainly, but I think the Liberals, we can't afford it. The election is too important. And
do the Liberals have time? So let's say in that scenario where Pablo has to walk the plank, okay? Is there enough time? What would you suggest? Oh, do another leadership race. Would you say, well, it's got to be some sort of abridged version where membership votes on something ASAP, maybe goes to one of the other finalists like Charles Millard or somebody else? Or do you take an interim leader from within the party? How do you handle that? I mean, elections so soon.
I think the Liberals can use a leader, perhaps someone from the outside. They had Charles Millard, who was a very impressive-looking candidate in the leadership campaign. Carl Blackburn was also a candidate. They had a very intriguing race with candidates that had all brought to the table some very positive attributes. And I think the Liberals, there's enough wrap-up time between now and the summer, at least, to have some type of leadership campaign, perhaps get a new leader in place, perhaps still benefit from somewhat of a honeymoon before the election next year. There's certainly time for that. Taking the chance of sticking with Pablo with all the obstacles and all the suspicion and all that's gone on over the past few weeks, I think is much too risky, pardon the expression.
Yeah.
But again, I think that they have to seriously reflect in the next few weeks. We're probably going to see a lot of that internal self-evaluation by the Liberal Party. And as I said, the stakes are extremely high in the next election. I remember in '94, the circumstances leading up to that election, and the Federalist side being not ready. Sovereignty numbers were also in the mid to high 30s, yet when the referendum came a year later, we almost lost the country. So this is serious stuff right now, and can we take a chance on banking on things getting smoother for the Liberal Party? Doesn't look likely, I think, after what we've seen for the past few weeks.
Robert, life's not fair, huh? Sometimes it's just how it shakes out.
And I feel bad for him, and I think he handled the situation fairly well. But sometimes it's not. Politics is a blood sport. And,
you're right.
Sometimes there's casualties.
Okay, Robert, you're great. Thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Robert, Robert Libman, go read his latest piece in the Gazette entitled "Fair or Not, Rodriguez Must Step Down."
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.